We got everybody? All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming to the Census Day of Action. Very important. It's a very important time here in South Carolina, even with all the challenges we face. But before we talk about the census, I just want to take a minute to recognize the significance of today, 5 years ago, and the tragic loss of the 9 South Carolinians at the Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston. It was a time that was so tragic for our state, but we all came together as South Carolinians as one big South Carolina family. And I just want the families of those 9 to know that you are in the prayers of mine and my family today, as I know it'll be a terribly tough day for you. So with that, right now we face some challenges here in South Carolina. The COVID-19 still happening, keeping social distancing first and foremost in our minds. But we have a census to complete. And the census happens once every 10 years. And so right now, funds that we're getting from the federal government for the CARES Act, for roads and bridges, for education, for everything that has a federal program here in South Carolina are based on those numbers. The problem with that is the Census Department tells us that those numbers are 20% undercounted in 2010. So a very easy math equation I've been giving to everybody is for everybody who's counted in the census here in South Carolina, just shy of $3,000 the state receives for you being counted. If 100 people in South Carolina choose not to do the census and be counted, over 10 years, $3,000, 100 people over 10 years, the state loses $3 million. So when you look at the fact that we were 20% undercounted, that's 20% less money that we are getting for programs that we need so desperately. So that's why we're here today. We're doing a Census Day of Action. What we're asking to do is have at least 100 people in each county, every residence, that's how the census is counted, by residents, to get signed up. I've been traveling and meeting with leaders from around the state. I've been in with Georgetown and Horry and Marlboro, and sitting down with mayors to come up with ways, creative ways, to get people out and get their census information input. So this is the first time we can do it online ever in the history of the census. So that's what we're pushing people for, especially because of social distancing. But you can do it by mail, you can do it by phone, and we'll have some other speakers here talking about it. Very proud of our mayor of Georgetown County. He is saying he wants 400 residents counted today. I'm very excited about today. I want to thank everybody in advance for their hard work in putting together big programs. I'm going to give some suggestions on challenges here at the end, but I want you to hear from these great people who have some words to give too on the census today. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Brenda Murphy, President of South Carolina's NAACP.
Good morning. I would just like to say that, completion of the census is critical. And as president of the South Carolina State Conference, I have oversight of branches, NAAC branches throughout the state. I am in frequent communication with them about the census, what they're doing, because we ought to play in a vital role in terms of trying to get everyone, as many people as possible, to complete that census form. It's critical. It is critical. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why it is so critical. The data that is compiled from the 2020 census is spent, is used to determine how billions of dollars will be spent every year for the next 10 years on our communities. We want to make sure that everyone is counted because those numbers are critical. The data is used to determine many different things, and I'm only going to talk about a few of those today. But looking at the list, it's extensive and it impacts significantly on what we will be doing the next 10 years and the funding that we will be receiving. We all know funding for hospitals are created using the data from the census. Some years ago, we lost several hospitals in the rural areas. Those individuals now have to travel quite a distance to receive their care. There are a limited number of providers in those areas, which puts them at risk in terms of health care. So the rural areas we're focusing on, and we are trying to make sure we get everyone counted. Also, we know that money is allocated for Head Start, a very important program for our young people to get them started on their education in the right way. Special education grants are funded using the data. And we know we need those programs because now in our schools, we have the special programs that are needed for special education. And if we don't get the information completed, then we won't have the funding that we need in order to sponsor those programs in our schools. Federal Pell Grants are funded using the data, and that provides an opportunity for those with less income to be able to attend college. So that's another reason. Our nutrition programs, we know that's been very, it's needed because of COVID-19. We've had to use that program throughout our states, funding nutritional programs for our young children that typically receive meals at school, may not receive meals at home. Also, it provides, the data is used to determine what amount will be used to provide temporary assistance for needy families, Title I grants for local education agencies are also included, Medicare. I could just go on and on about what and why it's so important that we get the data completed, the census completed. Our fire departments, where are they located? Our roads, our transit system, and grants for continuing education in terms of, I would say, technical schools. It's very, very important that we complete our census. We are going to encourage everyone, as many people as we can. We are working diligently, and we all know, and we must share with members of our communities that if they do not complete the census form, then it will be detrimental to their community. Not that it may be, it will be detrimental. Thank you. Next is, I'm blocking right now. You said I do. I did it. Right. My friend.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Naomi Lett. I'm the president and CEO with the United Way Association of South Carolina. I am very, very proud to be amongst the people who are here today working hard on the census. We believe that every South Carolinian should be recognized, acknowledged, valued, and counted. And in order to be recognized, valued, and acknowledged, it is important that they are counted. We want the folks who maybe have been invisible in the last census and whose communities did not get funding to receive funding this year because of the census. And with that value system in mind, we work to develop a public-private partnership. So I am here representing the United Way Network throughout the state, the South Carolina Grantmakers Network, and the New Venture Fund. We realize how important this is to our state and to all of the communities across the state, especially those who are struggling. So as part of that, we have invested more than $175,000 in communities across the state through the partners you see here and many others, because we know that public-private partnerships are the way in which we reach people all across the state, that each of us has a unique role that we play in our communities, and the voices that we hear and how we understand the importance of the census comes through many voices. And so we wanted to make sure that we put our money where our value systems are and made sure that every South Carolinian knows that they matter and know that they count. We are integrating our efforts into the COVID-19, so we also do a lot of work around providing resources through the same partners to make sure that those who are struggling right now because of the pandemic and the economic situation, that we can also leverage that. So we are a very proud partner. We're very happy to be here. We ask everybody, if you look at your school or if you look at your roads or if you look at your healthcare system and you think you need something better, I ask you, get counted. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Guillermo Espinosa from Alianza Latina, or Latin Alliance of the Midlands. We are a networking organization dedicated to putting together all the resources available for Hispanics and Latinx communities in the Midlands of South Carolina. Alianza Latina was a recipient of United Way grant funds, and with that and aligning ourselves with community partners like Food Share or other community organizers and donors, we were able to establish a pilot food program that allowed us to provide healthy and fresh food resources to low-income Hispanic communities throughout the Midlands. This also allowed us the opportunity to support and United Way and statewide census outreach activities, particularly in these Hispanic communities, which is one of the fastest growing populations in South Carolina. I will say that when it comes to the census, to reiterate the message that's being said today, I want to reiterate that the census is for all of us. It provides funds for various programs tied to education, public housing, workforce and community development, all that in your own community. The way you fill out the census is safe, it's confidential, and just by taking 10 minutes of your day, you're able to provide these resources to your own community, your family, and yourself, really. So just by visiting my 2020census.gov, taking those 10 minutes, you can do a lot in those 10 minutes of your day. I would like to repeat this information in Spanish for my Hispanic community members. It shouldn't take long. Buenos días, mi nombre es Guillermo Espinosa, de Alianza Latina de los Midlands. Pertenezco a una organización dedicada a unir los recursos en el área de los Midlands que ayudan a las comunidades hispanas y latinas. United Way nos proveyó unos fondos para ayudar con compartir información del Census 2020 y al unirnos con diferentes organizaciones en el área, pues pudimos establecer un programa piloto proveyendo comida fresca a comunidades hispanas de bajos recursos. En este día de acción del censo quisiera repetir que el censo es para todas las personas que viven en Carolina del Sur, tú y yo, todas las comunidades hispanas. Estos fondos, que pueden ser como miles de dólares por cada hogar, van a programas de educación, vivienda pública, desarrollo económico, laboral. Esto va para ti, para tu comunidad y para tu estado. Tu información es segura, es confidencial, no necesitas seguro social, no necesitas tax ID. Esta información no se comparte con ningún otro programa federal o agencia federal. Solo tomando 10 minutos de tu día yendo a my2020census.gov puede ayudarte a ti, a tu familia, a tu comunidad. Well, all that said in English and Spanish, thank you so much. Thank you so much to United Way and all our community partners for allowing us this opportunity. Thank you. Sorry.
No worries. Good morning. My name is Lindy Studs, and I'm a representative from the United States Census Bureau. On behalf of our regional director, Mr. George Grandy Jr., a special thanks to Lieutenant Governor Evette for being the 2020 champion for the state of South Carolina. From the day Mr. Grandy met with Governor McMaster back in May of 2017 to discuss the 2020 census operations, the state of South Carolina has been poised and ready to make this decennial census the state's best. Hats off to the Lieutenant Governor's team and the work of the countless complete count committees and other census partners across the state that have worked tirelessly to raise census awareness and increase this cycle's self-response rate. To date, nearly 56% of the state's households have completed their questionnaire. And although the national average is 61.4%, South Carolina has 7 counties and 34 cities above the national rate, and more are fast approaching. If your household is one of those who have not yet responded, my message to you is respond today. It is easy. You guys have heard a lot about why it's so important to us all and the safety and confidentiality that protects us all, but it's easy. It takes 10 minutes. You can respond online at my2020census.gov, or you can respond by phone by calling 1-844-330-2020, or by completing the paper questionnaire and simply mailing it back. We are glad to report that a 92-year-old resident told us that he completed the questionnaire online for his family of 4 in less than 8 minutes. And yes, he is 92. So if he can do it, we can all do it. And that 10 minutes is worth a lot. So with that being said, let's make today, our South Carolina Census Day of Action, our best response day ever. If you haven't responded, go online or call today. And if you have responded, reach out to 10 family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, and remind them, because it's about all of us being in this together. So thank you. Turn it back over to Lieutenant Governor.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to our media partners. You guys have been wonderful, getting us on air, on radio, in print, letting everybody know why this is so important since we can't be there face to face during this time. So thank you so much. Thank you to our community partners. Annie McDaniel, she's a rep here. She has showed up today. All of our state reps and senators have done a lot pushing information out. We are going to do a challenge with the mayors in every city. You can drill down in the hard to count map and see how everybody's doing by city, by county, and by state. So we're going to be pushing out a little challenge to all of them and ranking our cities to see who's won. Hopefully a little friendly competition will get everybody excited. So thank you to everybody who's going to go out today. We are asking again for 200 households in each county. That will be 10,000 residents across the state, which should push our percentage up by 2%. I know it's a lot of work to get up by 2%. That's why we need everybody. One thing that we have kind of stumbled on our coastal regions, if you have a second home, something we really don't talk about a lot. If you have a second home at the beach or at the coast somewhere, please log on and get that home counted. Even if you don't live there full time, you can count it with 0. And what that does is it takes those areas off of our map so we can drill into the really hard to count areas where people are living and help try to get them to understand how important it is. It's so very important for everything we need. One thing that wasn't mentioned here but was talked about a lot in Accelerate SC is broadband. We know, especially now when learning became virtual, how important it is to have broadband in our communities. So broadband, there is a lot of federal dollars, billions of federal dollars available to expand broadband. Secretary Ross was in South Carolina, and the governor and I had the opportunity to meet with him. He's a huge champion of the census. He encouraged us to do everything we could to get those dollars drilled into South Carolina. Doesn't just help learning good and strong broadband across our state. It helps with telehealth and telemental health, something the governor has been very passionate about since he's taken office. That is a game changer, especially in our rural communities, to make sure that citizens have access to good quality health care as well as education. So just as it was said by our U.S. Census, there is something that is important to every single one of us that the census touches. So please get on your phones today, find 10 people. Find 10 people and send a text to them and make sure that they filled out the census. Have them respond to you, and if they haven't, encourage them and tell them why. If we all do that, if we all reach out to 10 people that are close to us, just imagine the impact we will make here in South Carolina today. So again, thank you to our community partners for all your hard work. Keep going. The census has been pushed back to October 31st for self-submission. So we want to make sure we're not going to wait. We want to see our numbers go high. We want to be on top of this list because it's good for all South Carolinians. Thank you, everyone, for coming this morning. Any questions?
Yeah, so like you said, we've had a little over half of our residents, our households be counted. What have been some of the roadblocks to getting that number higher at this point?
So I think there's a couple things, right? I think we've been dealing with COVID-19, so people have just had other things on their plate and they're not really thinking about the census. But the one thing we have to stress is the census happens only once every 10 years, so you don't get a do-over. We'll be living with the consequences of these numbers for 10 years, especially when we're looking at making big changes in our state, like we said, with broadband or roads or schools or healthcare. I think sometimes too, I think as you talked about, this information is protected. There is no question about citizenship. Nobody is looking at that. By law, census data that is collected is protected for 72 years. It cannot be released to another federal department or state department. It can't be used for anything except its intended use. So I don't want people to feel that that is a barrier. Going online is safe and secure. We can all do it from the comforts of our home. Literally, I did my household in less than a few minutes. So I think those are some of the barriers, but I think with good information, which we've been trying to push out, I'm hoping that will help. Just getting everybody understanding. That's why I thank all of our media partners for their help, because you're the best way to get that information out to people when they're not thinking about that this is census time.
When I filled out mine and I went online, you had to enter the code that was sent to you. If people don't have that code, what do they do when they go online?
So I've heard that a lot. So, if you received a code in the mail and you've lost that code because you're not quite sure what it was for, do not let that stop you. If you go online, it'll ask you, do you have the code? If you say no, it's going to think for a few minutes to make sure it didn't get a response from that address. And if it hasn't, it will flip right up on screen and let you start your census. So don't let that be a barrier to you. If you go on to my2020census.gov, if you feel more comfortable calling in, there's an 800 number, and there's still the good old paper forms, whatever makes people feel most confident or most comfortable about getting it done.
And we were just talking about how we could get money for more broadband, but are we targeting the areas that don't have that broadband, somehow trying to reach out to them to make the phone call if they can't go online?
Yes, we are. That's where community leaders become so vitally important in this effort. Sometimes people don't trust government, but they do trust their pastors. They trust their teachers. They trust their school board members. And that's why we're reaching out to all those leaders in the community and asking them, because those are the faces people see and trust. We also resume field offices as of June 1st. And so although people won't do the traditional door knocking, if you live and your mailing address is a P.O. box, that's how you get your mail, the United States Census does not send census paper forms to a P.O. box. But what they'll be doing now is they'll be dropping packets off at people's doors to let them know if they haven't been reached before. And cities are, like I said, doing very creative things today. Georgetown's mayor and their representative, Carl Anderson, they're looking for 400 residents today. They're doing drive-through. They had community partners donate gift cards. And so as you go through and fill out your census, they're getting your name and phone number, and they'll be drawing some gift cards at the end to get people excited. There are other communities that have had donuts given to them, and so they're doing a drive-through where you do your census and get a cup of coffee and a donut. No better way to get people out than to get their stomachs, right? So people are coming up with very creative ways on how to reach out. During some of our COVID-19 testing, census has been set up so people can do their census before they get their test while they're waiting. Kevin Sweeto, our director of DMV, what a great guy and a huge champion with me on the census. The census has provided fans. and it has all the information on it. So as people are waiting in line at the DMV, they're passing those fans out, and census workers will be there to help people on their phones while they're waiting at the DMV to get their census completed if they haven't. So those are really grassroots efforts, and that's what we're counting on to get everybody counted. So look in your areas for our leaders that are watching. The hard to count map for the 2020 census will drill in basically down to the streets that haven't been counted. So we can really laser focus on people who just aren't getting the word out for any number of reasons.
Last one for me, if you're one of those people that said, oh, my wife was going to do this, and your wife meanwhile is saying, oh, my husband was gonna do this, can you go online and see if your household has put in the information?
Well, I think that would be good for you. If they go in and put in a residence that's already been done, will it alert them that it's already been completed?
So there is no way to go online and sort of search like a database or something to see if your responses have come through, but just because of the confidentiality and privacy around the responses. So what I would encourage folks to do is talk to their family members who are living in that residence, or maybe sharing children between multiple residences and all of those things, and ask. And if truly no one can remember, I would encourage someone for that residence to go online. Don't have the code, not a problem. They can put that residence address in and fill it out, because we do have duplication and quality control checks, and so we will catch that if in fact it was done twice. We'd rather you go on and be safe, or you can call the phone line and speak to a census taker and do it that way.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much, guys, for coming today.